So, Trent, what have you been eating recently?
I'm glad you asked. I just had some carrot sticks and uh nope, that was it. Just carrot sticks. And you?
I had some milk.
Ooh, just like a straight glass of it. That's like a controversial statement to make these days.
I love milk.
What percent?
2%?
That's fine. The internet's mad at you though. That's
Why?
You haven't heard the memes part?
Is milk not
Apparently
okay now?
drinking a glass of milk is to some people is considered repulsive. Parth, you're talking to a sympathizer, so you're preaching to the choir. I grew up
I
on
didn't
milk.
realize this could get me canceled.
That's
I
why,
was I was had a milk a day.
Parth, let's think about it this way: our bones are so much stronger than everyone else. We're fueled with calcium.
One could
Um,
say that we do in fact got milk.
well put, but actually, that is also controversial
Yeah, I know.
because because it's a government campaign because the dairy farmers of America were just up to their neck in surplus milk. And then they thought, what's a catchy slogan? And then they came up with that. And it worked because now me and you, we've been fooled. We were manipulated by the US government to just fill ourselves with milk. Why are cows like a reoccurring subject in our opening
Are they?
discussions?
When?
Yeah. We talked about almond milk last week and how
Oh
it
yeah.
spared like the cow udders.
And then this week I decided not to. Although I wasn't the one that had almond
It
milk.
was it was me.
It's you.
Um but I sided with carrots because I just wanted my vision to improve because apparently that's a thing. Have you seen were you Phineas and Ferb guy, Parth?
I
You can
love
be honest.
Phineas and Ferb.
So I was
Did
eating
you
my
know that? Did
carrots.
you know that my friends used to call me Baljeet in high school?
Oh, well, that's
For like a
racist.
period of a year. Um,
Oh, wait, could it be because he's the one Indian character on that show?
I don't know what it was about him.
Or is it like the uncanny physical resemblance?
I kind of do look like him in one way.
Do you have a Buford in your life? Like a man with a skull and crossbones on his shirt who just constantly harasses you, but you're in a parasitic relationship and you keep coming back? Is that
um,
what this is, part? Is that me and you? Wait, which Phineas and Ferb character am I? If anything, I'm like Ferb. Wait, what's Candace's like boyfriend? What's his name? Do you remember?
Jeremy.
Jeremy, and his little sister's name is Susie.
Mhm.
Well, Candace doesn't do anything for me romantically, so I guess I'm not Jeremy. Um, but I guess we can do a grand reveal in the next episode of which Phineas and Ferb character I am, or we can do like however like double digit listeners we can have them vote on it.
Mhm.
Well, the reason I brought up Phineas and Ferb is because there's an episode where they chop a bunch of carrots and then they put them into like a pair of glasses, and it gives them supervision.
I remember this.
Oh, you recall that?
Mhm. I love Phineas and Ferb. Right, like when I
You
was a kid.
did.
Yeah,
No longer?
not since I was called Baljeet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure once racism was brought into play, you
Racism does tend to kind of ruin things, the mood, the tone,
well
the
put, Parth.
general atmosphere. I would say that in the general, I'm pretty against racism.
Bold stance.
Thank you.
I am going to second that statement because if I didn't, I think this would become a solo podcast due to the public backlash.
Right.
So I just
Do you think we
want,
should get onto the show now?
yeah, now that we've condemned all forms of racism,
Mhm.
let's move on.
Let's not get canceled.
Welcome back to Craft Services, the podcast, where we talk about the movies and or films. Each week we discuss a different film and hopefully have an interview with a crew member of that movie to talk with us about their experience. This week we're going to be talking about John Wick, the movie, and with us we have its costume designer, Luca Mosca. Parth, you saw this movie. Can you briefly describe it to our listeners
A
with a
little synopsis.
yeah? If it's from Wikipedia, that's fine.
It's actually from IMDb. An ex-hitman comes out of retirement to track down the gangsters that killed his dog and took everything from him.
Yeah, you're a man of few words.
So is he.
Hmm.
I guess I'll just go into the production history if that's okay with you.
You might as well.
So this is a project born out of the mind of writer Derek Kolstad. He's the screenwriter for all three John Wick films, although the third one has other writers attached to it. Originally, it was a treatment in development for a retired contract killer that comes back to the job, and it was originally titled Scorn. And a little fun fact for you, John Wick stars Keanu Reeves as the titular character, and when he was attached to the role, he was so excited about it, he just called the movie John Wick a lot, and that's why they decided to change the name. Originally, it was titled Scorn.
That's a fun fact, Parth.
Thank you. It is fun. I'm fun.
You're fun.
Thank you. It was influenced by the neo-noir genre and Stephen King. And it was Keanu Reeves who got David Leitch and Chad Stahelski, who were stunt performers on the Matrix trilogy, as well as second unit directors later on in the film industry. They did a lot of work for the Wachowskis, who did the Matrix trilogy. And he was the one that got them on board to direct. This is their directorial debut. Chad Stahelski was the only credited director because of Directors Guild of America rules. Leitch was given a producer's credit. Filming was mostly took place in New York. Some stuff was taking place in Long Island. Some stuff was in Queens. Some stuff was in Manhattan. So all around a New York film.
So New York is also known as the Big Apple. Is that correct? Like
yes.
Is it the concrete jungle? Is it like the city that never sleeps?
Yeah.
Wait, is it the city so nice they named it twice?
Okay.
I'm out of examples, so I'm glad you stopped me.
It was released in 2014. It had a budget of $20 to $30 million, and it was what was considered a sleeper hit. It made $86 million.
A financial success.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it here first, folks.
It's true.
Ended up with more money than they started with, and they had some fun in the process.
But that's all the production history that I was able to find online. But maybe we should get some behind the scenes on the costume design for this movie.
Who could we possibly talk to hear more about that? I don't know. Do you?
And I'm glad you asked this. It's in case you didn't remember, we actually interviewed the costume designer for John Wick.
Wait,
is that whack?
Wait, wasn't the costume designer Luca Mosca? Or am I imagining things?
We had a great conversation with him, didn't we?
It's all coming back. Okay. Yeah. Oh, we actually are gonna cut to that interview now that I remember we had one. So now on to our interview with costume designer Luca Mosca.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our interview with the amazing Luca Mosca, the costume designer for such films as Premium Rush, The Last Witch Hunter, Skyscraper, and of course, the John Wick trilogy. We're super excited to be talking with him and to learn from his expertise. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored and humbled by the beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Of course. So we generally start off by just asking our guests how they got involved with the film industry, like where that sort of passion started.
The way my career in film started was completely accidental and unplanned. Coming from the world of fashion, from Italian couture specifically, and having recently moved to the United States from Italy, a producer approached us. My former business partner and I approached us asking to volunteer a few pieces of clothing from our fashion line for his upcoming small budget movie. It was a $250,000 budget movie. And we accepted, and then we were offered to maybe design the entire movie. And I said, yes, why not? Let's do it. And the same producer called us to do the following movie, which was a beautiful Hamlet 2000, with Ethan Hawke. Exactly, playing Hamlet, and Bill Murray being the spin doctor. And so that was a great opportunity to do a small budget, an independent movie that would eventually get a lot of acclaim and visibility, and sort of jumpstart my career as a costume designer. So from what was a completely casual and unplanned moment of donating a couple of dresses to a small independent production, here you go, finding myself and working with Sam Shepard as the ghost, and Diane Venora and Julia Stiles, and an incredible cast. And my career has been in the name of incredible and generous opportunities, people who trusted me to always do something bigger than my credential would suggest that I would be able to do. And that's been the case for all the following movies. And here I am now, and I have a decent career designing great projects with the best talent in the world.
So we did a little research and saw that you studied pharmacy in college, and we just wanted to know how you got into fashion after that being your education.
I am indeed a pharmacist. That was not my vocation. That was imposed upon me by a very traditional family that couldn't understand how, with the pharmacy in the family, one could dream of being involved with fashion and with the instability of freelance work. And so I had to oblige. And my medical studies were very hard. I cannot deny that. I'm also very proud that I achieved such a difficult goal. But at the end of my medical studies, I had to tell my family, I'm done, and I'm not going to work in the family business. And I had this great opportunity to work in a couture company in Italy at the time, producing the likes of Helmut Lang, Catherine Hamnet, Romeo Gigli, Norma Kamali, and I ended up following the Callaghan line, but also Norma Kamali, based in New York. And dream come true, I was crossing the pond every couple of weeks, and I became very familiar with New York, and eventually setting up shop there became very natural, very organic, and we started a clothing line, and that's how the whole career unfolded. And it moved from chemistry and physics to fashion to costumes, and it's still evolving. Don't It's not over, but for now we are still doing movies. Yes, we still are. I am, at least.
My parents are both science majors and have like 2 masters in science. So going into the arts is something I can empathize with. So we just kind of were wondering if you could explain what your parameters or job description of a costume designer would be, or how you would describe that job?
The costume designer is the person who is responsible for the look of every single actor, every single person that shows up in front of the camera. And that applies to your lead actor, to your supporting actors, to your minor roles, and to all the background actors that you have in a movie. And my work starts in pre-production with a script that I read and dissect and analyze in all the most minute details. I try to pick up all the possible information that I get from the script. And then I start a creative conversation with the director in order to bring her or his vision in front of the camera. And at that point, we start a massive visual research with, depending on the movie, with period or contemporary or ethnic photographs, and then with illustrations, and then building samples, collecting fabrics and any kind of materials, accessories, and then eventually moving on to the human body and getting the first actors into the fitting rooms and trying clothes on them, taking beautiful photographs, and making sure that everything looks right, fits okay. And last but not least, that your budget is also handled with care. When you do a movie, you don't necessarily have $1 billion of disposable budget, so you have to keep an eye on your spending and prioritize and make sure that all your most important actors and scenes are taken care of. And you have to see where you need to sometimes compromise. And that is, in a nutshell, the work that we do over the span of many months in order to bring all these actors in front of the camera. Obviously, once the costumes are ready, the task of the costume designer is to be on set with the actor and with the costume the first time that he or she wears the costume, make sure that it works, and then eventually follow the progress of the costume in a movie like, and I'll make the example of John Wick because it is very easy to understand. In the case where there is a lot of wear and tear of the costume, and so even if you have the impression of seeing the same suit that gets burnt and torn and slashed and pierced by bullets, those in reality are many different costumes that are all prepared in different stages of distress, and that all need to be coordinated and supervised. So, and we have been talking about my work up to now. Obviously, there is an army of people, an army of super competent, qualified, laborious, hardworking people who sew, who dye, who stain, who distress, who stay on set for long shooting hours and make sure that everything is properly maintained, executed, and shot in continuity. So it really takes a village in order to put this together. And at the end of the movie, or at the beginning of the movie, you see the big title page that says costumes by, and you see the name of the costume designer. The reality is that there is a lot more than that one person. To all the crews that I worked with, my utmost and heartfelt gratitude.
That's great. So when working on something like John Wick, what kind of communication do you have to keep with your? Obviously, you have your main actors, and you have your director and your cinematographers, which are all responsible for what's apparent in the frame. And so, what input do those three levels of people have on your work, and what kind of collaboration happens there in John Wick specifically, and just in general?
The director is my ultimate boss. So that's a person I need to respond to. And because of my personal relationship with Chad Stahelski, and also with Dave Leitch in the case of John Wick 1, because Chad and Dave were co-directing John Wick 1. The communication is constant. So every time I have a fitting, I immediately rush or Dropbox or share some way or another the photos, the fitting photos with the director. I personally enjoy the company of the director during the most important fittings because at that point he can be vocal together with the leading actors, and we can all make a decision quickly in the same room. And you were asking me also about the DP, the director of photography, and the production designer. I love working with both of them. I want to know what the likes and dislikes for a DP are, the basics. Well, what is your relationship with very dark colors, or how do you like white? Can white be white, or you would rather have my whites be off-white and quote unquote tea-dyed? And we also test fabrics to see the reaction on camera. Sometimes you upgrade to a new technology, and this is happening all the time with technology moving so fast. And you want to see what this new Alexa is doing and how it's reading your navies or your dark grays, or is that fabric going to moire to move in a funny way in front of the lens? So this is a very important process that happens with the director of photography. And with the production designer also, I love to work very closely because it's important for both to know how our colors are going to interact. Is he going to give me a red wall and I'm going to give him a red costume? Is this going to be a problem? Or maybe not, because maybe that's exactly what we want to do. We want the actor to blend into the red background, or maybe not. And so my costume can become green if we really wanted to stand out in front of the red background. So I like to visit sets during the making, during the planning. I like to see photos and sketches and share my costume concepts for that very reason. I think that It's very symbiotic, the relationship that happens among all the departments of a movie. And we all use one another as tools in our tool bag to achieve the perfect result and to bring the director's vision in front of the camera.
So we were wondering if you design costumes based on the actor or the character in the script, or is it a combination of the two?
It is always a combination of the two. You have to have an idea of what the body type is. And once I get the measurement from the actor, I immediately get some information about what kind of fit I can afford or I should design for that specific body type. So this is a conversation to be had also with the actor. Actors will oftentimes inform me of what works and what doesn't work on them. They know their body. They have been with their body for much longer than myself. And also the character is informing the costume. Of course, is it a blue collar type of character? Is that a sleek superhero? So all of those factors have to do with eventually what becomes the costume. Colors also are very important. I can convey a lot through color. I can give or take away power from a character by using specific colors. I can make a character lovable, scary, repulsive, all of that, but just using color and texture and fabrics. So yeah, it all depends. Both the actor and the character, as it is described in the script, inform my decision of building a specific costume.
One of the things that I was wondering was on something like John Wick specifically, like you were saying, you kind of have several different versions of the suit as it progresses throughout the film. And I was wondering on John Wick specifically, how many versions of that are there? And obviously, you need to be considering both form and function. And so, how do you design considering the practical needs that the action in these movies require?
The multiples, as we call them in my industry, of each costume are definitely one of the most fascinating aspects of the making of an action movie like John Wick. I don't remember the exact count of suits that we had for the character of John Wick, but I think that for his main costume in John Wick 3, we had about 90, and so a few of those costumes are allocated to Keanu Reeves, to the actor himself. A few of them are in the proper size. A few of them may contain gussets or added little pieces of fabric to allow for the extreme movement needed for when you need to lift an arm or kick a leg up in mid-air. And But that's only a small part of the costumes. Maybe some costumes are in a slightly larger size to allow for pads, to allow for harnesses. But then there is an enormous amount of costumes that are allocated to the stunts that play John Wick. And some stunts may be exactly the same size as Keanu, but some of them may be shorter or taller, maybe even larger than he is, because Keanu is extremely fit. And for example, in John Wick 3, you saw these horseback riding scenes, and the guy
Right.
that was trained to ride the horse in the extreme scenes is a guy that is a completely different size from Keanu. And so you need to keep that in mind. Also, you have to put a very big pad underneath the shirt and the jacket, and then cut a hole through the jacket in order to attach a harness. So sizes range wildly. And then you have to keep into consideration that at the beginning of the scene, at the top of the scene, the costume is pristine and clean and pressed. But then it gets wet because John Wick is walking in the rain, and then it gets bloody. And maybe it's even bloody from the previous movie, from John Wick 2. And so you have to pick it up from where you had left it. So the stain, the blood stain on John Wick's white shirt is almost like pre-printed on a dozen shirts, and eventually we add more blood to it based on how many minutes or how many hours there are between the beginning and the end of the scene, and the color of the blood also may change based on time. Fresh blood is more intense and more red, and older blood tends to be more brown. And so the multiples, this enormous amount of multiples needed to make an action movie are one of the things that fascinate the most people who come and visit the wardrobe rooms or the wardrobe truck. It is kind of incredible to see the same costume repeated obsessively for racks and racks. And it is also where much of the budget is spent. And it is spent in a non-visible way, meaning the audience doesn't necessarily understand that in order to see that one costume, you have to prepare 90 of them. But it is definitely a beautiful sight, even for myself, to see all those shoes, all those suits, all those shirts, all hanging from the racks. Is a very fascinating sight.
So I was wondering, as you've worked on consecutive films in a franchise, when doing John Wick 2, do you tackle that as its own entity, or are you thinking about it as an extension of the preceding one, especially through like the tone changes that John Wick 2 and 3 have compared to the first?
It is probably both. It is beautiful to consider each movie as its own entity, but you are dealing here with something that has been built before. Now, the elating feeling of going into a John Wick 2 rather than a John Wick 3 is that your hard work has paid off. And the movie that started off as a somewhat independent feature that not too many people believed in has been a worldwide blockbuster. And now you are called back as a part of that successful design team to make number two. So obviously, you created a formula that needs to be continued, and you can just add on. And for me, it is more like going to town with it and doing more, because I think that for John Wick, the more the better, and just employing all your creativity and designing the most beautiful, the most creative costumes. And so, to go back to your original question, yeah, both. Take it as its own, but it's a franchise. It's a known entity, and what you have done before was right. So continue it and do it better.
That's awesome. So kind of talking about it as a franchise, the first film was a pretty low budget. For an action movie, it was a budget of like $20 million or so. And each consecutive sequel has sort of doubled the budget of its predecessor. So we were wondering how an increased budget like that affects your workflow.
How more than affects it, let's say how it allows for more freedom, for more creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So in John Wick 2, you could see that we left the continent. We went to Rome. We shot in Rome. We took the historic bath of Caracalla, and we put thousands of extras, and I dressed all of them. And it takes a huge budget in order to do that. So that the bigger budget allowed me to do things that in a movie like John Wick 1 were impossible. Now, what I'm very proud of is that in John Wick 1, we used creativity to replace money. Whenever there was not enough money, we figured out a way how to do things in a cost-effective way and to put in front of the camera a movie that was richer and more expensive than the movie that we were actually making. So I am very, very proud of that. And I think that my philosophy was really appreciated by the directors, who were very vocal about that, and they really liked that about me and my team. The capacity of saying, okay, this is what I have, let's do it. And so, yes, this is what the bigger budget has allowed me to do.
Like you were just talking about with having to dress like 1,000 extras for that scene in John Wick 2, are you as meticulous in dressing the background characters as you are with like the key players?
So, of course, when you fit Halle Berry or Angelica Houston, you pay more attention than when you're fitting a waiter for the Continental Hotel in Morocco. But the same obsessive attention goes into the designing of the costumes, into finding the right fabrics, the right trims. All the work is done ahead of time, because when the day of the shoot comes and you're hit by thousands of background actors, there is not too much time to be meticulous about fit, even if most of the background actors are pre-fit. So Keanu Reeves gets all of my attention, and so do all the most important numbered actors. But I also like to make sure that the costumes for the Continental Hotel, for the party scenes, for the Continental waiters, for the staff, are designed to be on the same level. So there are literally months of research, of building, of shopping for all the background.
That's super cool. We kind of stalked your IMDb profile, and were able to see that you've worked on a lot of films that have been produced by Lionsgate, and we were wondering, is that a coincidence, or are costume designers kept on by like a certain studio? Because I know with like composers sometimes it can kind of be like that. So we were wondering about that.
Yes, I think I am not the executive producer at Lionsgate, or another good example would be Sony, Columbia. I have done a lot of work for them as well. I am not the producer, I am not the person who hires. But when I see that my costume designer, Luca Mosca, is dealing with all my cast, all the crew, the budget, the director, in a seamless, non-drama producing way. His costumes are always delivered in front of the camera on a timely manner. Everybody is happy. The movie has commercial acclaim, and that's the reason why, as a producer, I would want to go back to that same guy, because I think that my qualities are very precious when it comes to a large production where you have no time to waste, no time to make mistakes and experiments or replacements. So I pride myself with being the reliable person who rolls up into the same person many persons, many professional persons. The person who knows how to deal with the actors and make the actors happy. The person who knows how to deal with the director. The person who is kind and respectful to the producers and who can manage the budget and all of that. And that's my attitude. And hopefully there will be many more callbacks.
So changing gears a little bit, Keanu Reeves is like famously like one of the nicest actors in Hollywood, and also you've recently worked with some other big name actors like Lawrence Fishburne and Dwayne The Rock Johnson in Skyscraper. So while working hands on with them, do you ever get like a little starstruck, or do you keep it strictly professional?
That's my personal nature. And I don't think I would say starstruck, but insecurity is, in total honesty, the driving force behind all of my work. I work 10 times harder because I always think that I am not enough. What can I do? What can I do to satisfy the needs of a Keanu Reeves, of a Vin Diesel? They have seen it all. They have Lawrence Fishburne. They have done The Matrix. They have done the best movies in the world. What can little old me provide that is going to be good enough for them. And so I work so hard, so hard. I do a lot of prep work. I do so much. And one thing that I would like to mention also that I am so proud of are my photographs. Uh, as you know, we need to take photos of the costumes in order to show them to the studio, or rather than the director, etc. I have studied photography, and at this point, I call myself a professional photographer. I have very sophisticated lights and equipment, and I photograph fashion magazine quality pictures. They're not just the usual standard Polaroid type. Please stand in front of the wall because I need to show your costume to the director. So that goes with my sense of never being enough, and trying to always overachieve in order to be good enough. And again, that sense, that feeling of paying off is probably, working.
Well, I'll speak for them in saying that you've done an amazing job with all of their costumes. But
Thank you.
something exciting that happened on the first sequel to the first film was you were cast in the role of Keanu Reeves' Taylor.
How fitting.
How pun intended. How did that end up coming about, and what was that like?
So just about, I would say, 2 weeks prior to the shooting of the movie, the director kind of made a joke about the tailor, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but I said, "Can I please have his phone number at least? I need to speak with him." Now, that was a week before. I say, the tailor could be a man or a woman. It could be a thin man. It could be a 500-pound man. It could be a small woman. It could be a large woman. Give me an idea, because if it is a guy and it is an Italian tailor, I want to put him in the 3-piece suit. Well, I'm talking with him. Now I remember. Yes, the director said, "Yes, I'm talking with him right now." And I said, "Okay, so give me his phone number." And I thought that he was saying that he was referring to the fact that he was in negotiations with him. And he says, "I am talking with the tailor right now." And he looked into my eyes, and honestly, I wanted to faint. And my first reaction was like, I wanted to die. I wanted to say no. And so he gave me the script, and we had to do a little adjustment to the script. And Keanu and I looked at it together. We rehearsed it together. I think that the studio didn't want to hire me, and because I didn't have the credentials. But the director said, "I wrote this role based on you, and you are going to do it." And so people in the subway in New York probably thought I was crazy because I was reading my lines out loud and trying to memorize all this technical jargon. And the day of the shoot happened, and even if I felt my heart beating in the back of my throat, and I thought I was going to die of a major coronary, it went very well. It was day one of shoot of John Wick 2, and the whole crew knew me from John Wick 1, so I had everybody on the set to see me. So it was a lot of excitement. And the director then said, "I want you to stop designing. I want you to act. I am very pleased with your performance." And that was something that had been said to me by James Stowback in a movie shot so many years prior. When he put me in the movie and he said, "Stop designing. I want you to be an actor." And I said to myself, wow, I heard that twice already. So let me do something about it. And so ever since John Wick, I I started going to acting school. I got into Stella Adler School of Acting. And ever since, I am training and acting on a weekly basis. I am in a theater group, and I have been in a bunch of other independent projects. I have been in theater performances and stuff. And so that's what we said at the beginning of the career, right? When we went from chemistry to fashion to costumes, and now possibly acting. And who knows? I think I will pick up ballet when I am in my 90s. Who knows? And but this is what is on the plate for me now. And yes,
So I was wondering if you were able to disclose if you are playing, if you're going to be the costume designer for John Wick 4 as well.
no, that I cannot disclose. Um, as you know, also there's a lot of uncertainty about the timing of John Wick 4 because it all depends on the Matrix, and it all depends on whether the Matrix, because Keanu is playing in the Matrix, right? Obviously, it all depends on when uh, Babelsberg and Berlin and all of that reopen, and he can go back to work. And so now I cannot talk about John Wick 4 yet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, sort of speaking on that, we were wondering how the coronavirus has been treating you and your ability. I mean, obviously, it's impeded on everybody's ability to work, but like, how have you been doing with that?
The coronavirus crisis needed a little bit of adjustment from my side. First of all, I was very blessed that nobody in my circle of loved ones and friends was affected, neither here nor in Italy. My family, including my 90-year-old dad, lives in the very epicenter of this tragedy in Italy, and nobody was affected. So that was a blessing in it by itself. The little adjustment that I needed at the beginning, which was very difficult when I was afraid that I would die and that I wouldn't be able to help my 10-year-old son become a young adult and an independent adult. That adjustment consisted in my unplugging. At some point, I realized that watching the news and reading the newspapers was toxic. And for me, I completely 100% unplugged, and I started painting and sewing and sketching. And so now I can say that the past 3 months have been the most incredible, creative, beautiful time of my life. Incredibly, I have been cast to be in a web series also as an actor, doing some self-taping. And so it has been an incredible time. And so to answer your question, it has been amazingly beautiful.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave us off. Trent, you got any questions?
No, that's all for now. Thank you again for coming. We really appreciate your time.
My big pleasure. It's been great to share some of my experience in costume design and in movies with you guys, and I hope that some of your listeners will find these inspiring.
For sure. It was wonderful talking with you. That was Luca Mosca, costume designer for the John Wick trilogy, and we hope to see his work later. So that was Luca Mosca. We're super happy he was able to talk with us, and make sure to check out his future work.
So, Parth, me and you, we like this movie. I mean, for the most part. We'll get to that later. But in the meantime, I was looking at the internet, Google, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
newfangled thing.
Some people felt differently. Out of 5 stars, they decided to give it 1.
Wait, what did they say, Trent? Tell me.
Yeah. So these are pulled from Amazon.com. These are some negative reviews that I thought were rather silly. This one's titled Violent. The review says 1 star, very violent. Second review, subject, this is really bad. Content, first of all, you see what happens at the end of the movie. Thanks for that. They went to the extreme with each character and how they really, really, really wanted you to hate a character or feel sorry for a character. God. They even killed a cute puppy to work up your emotions. Enough of that. I get it. They are bad guys and you are the good one. Sheesh. Moving on. Subject, what a vile mess. This person feels strongly. This movie is just horrible. I feel bad for the character at first, but after finding out he was a gangster, I feel less bad. And what he did has no justification. It's repetitive and gruesome, but I hated the dog dying. The entire movie is not believable and shallow. Not to mention, he totally overreacted, even for someone in that state. They also didn't have to drag a church into this. Isn't that so funny? When the church was the front for the Russian mob. This person values religion. Here at Craft Services, we
believe in the word of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior.
Well put. Moving on. This one titled Seriously? Content. This dude must kill 60 people in the movie, and it is 10 people for every line of dialogue Keanu Reeves has. For a car and a dog? The dog, maybe. Absolutely ridiculous movie. Same audience watching this is why they made 9 of the Fast and Furious movies. If you graduated the 8th grade, you should not be interested in this movie. That's all I've got for reviews. Another thing I'll synthesize from reading a lot of 1-star reviews is a lot of people were just like, I watched the first 15 minutes and then the dog got killed and I was disgusted and I turned it off. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous. And also there were a lot of people who were just like, I like John Wick until I found out that he used to be a murderer. And then he couldn't be my protagonist anymore. And I guess these people have never heard of an anti-hero. A little complicated storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's enough negativity for one podcast. Let's get optimistic.
So, Trent, what were your initial feelings on this movie? For context, I've seen this movie. I saw this movie when it came out. I've seen this many, many, many times. And this was Trent's first viewing.
Yeah, I was a John Wick virgin, so to speak. And boy, I'm no longer that. He's deflowered me. Well, I watched it last night and I have some feelings, but overall rather positive. It was objectively a great action movie. I mean it was a joyous romp is the best way I can put it. I thought it was a condensed. It was like 90 minutes.
It's like 100 minutes. Yeah.
Sure. It moved fast. It kept me entertained. I think this movie, if Keanu Reeves wasn't in it, could have been a B movie, but Keanu Reeves really escalates it. Yeah. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty later on. How about you?
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same. I think, well, I mean, I saw the trailers for this, and I'm a big fan of Keanu Reeves from when I was a kid, and I've watched The Matrix, and I've loved him ever since. Everybody seems to really like him in the industry. Seems to be a very nice person.
Yeah, in the past 5 years, there's been like a Keanu Reeves renaissance.
True.
Just he's the internet's like dad now, if you haven't heard.
And he's very committed to his roles. In The Matrix, you can see him doing most of the action work,
Mhm.
doing stuff like that.
Same thing here.
And it's the same thing here. I agree. Without Keanu Reeves, and kind of Keanu Reeves gets a lot of shit for being like a not great actor. I think he's really great here, and I think he has an inherent likability. Nobody like hates Keanu Reeves. You may not like him, but you don't hate him, And I think that really helps with this. When I first saw this, I saw this in theaters with my dad and two other friends of mine, and it was awesome. I was blown away,
Hmm.
and I've since it was the first Blu-ray I ever bought with my own money.
Oh,
Um,
historic moment.
it's true, and it's a very special movie for me. It was very transformative for me because it was a movie that sort of I've always been a fan of action movies, and then this was a movie where it's like, oh, I want to like understand how they made this, and yeah, I mean, I love this movie.
I'm kind of amazed they made this for $20 million. It
Yeah,
looks,
they're very economical.
yeah,
Know?
they really stretched it.
Yeah. I guess we can talk about the direction.
Sure. The one thing that popped out to me was the editing style was very unique.
Mm.
And like I liked the on-screen text. I thought that was an interesting touch. I thought the transitions were cool. They did a lot of like wipe screens into the next scene. There was a lot of cross-cutting, which I enjoyed. It kept it fresh. Never did a scene go on for too long. It didn't give you a chance to get bored, which was something I valued.
Yeah, I think the with action movies specifically, something that I've always thought is, I mean, I didn't think this. There's a channel called Red Letter Media that said
Wait,
this,
way to cite your sources.
but they're absolutely right with this, which is that a movie doesn't necessarily need to be smart, but it should be smartly made.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is an example. This is not a very complicated movie, but there's lots of filming techniques, like cross-cutting. The cinematography is really great.
Yeah.
Some places say that this was shot in 35 millimeter film. Some places say this was shot digitally. I think it's on film, but
Really? I know very little about this, but if I were to guess, I would say it was digital.
I've seen it. I've seen that it was shot on film in more sources than I have that it was on digital.
Okay.
On Wikipedia, it says both. But like
Maybe it was like The Room where they did both.
perhaps, but it's it's a really it's a tier above most other action movies visually. It's got this really great neon aesthetic,
Yes, there's a very distinct color scheme.
and
Also, there's a lot of like interesting like aerial shots.
yeah,
There's cool like tracking shots. The action sequences are very well done.
there's and like you said with the editing, um, this had a really big impact on action movies, like low budget action movies. I think because in 2014 we were still getting the like super close up, super shaky, super you can't really tell what's going on. That type of action movie that came out of the
Kind of
Bourne
like
trilogy.
I was just gonna say, like the Bourne Identity is like famous for that sort of like
Yeah,
shaky cam at like fight sequence to the point where you don't know, you're completely spatially disoriented, and you're like, I know that they're punching each other, but I don't know like why or how.
I think
Or
that the Bourne movies do it well, or they mostly do it well. Sometimes it goes a little overboard in like the
Mhm.
supremacy, but the Bourne movies do it well because they're made by filmmakers that like understand why they're doing it, and it's a stylistic thing. Whereas when it was adopted by other filmmakers, um, it was used to hide the fact that they had no fucking clue what they
The
were.
flaws,
Yeah,
yes.
and here you get these really awesome wide shots of Keanu Reeves doing his fucking thing, you know? Like,
Yeah, the choreography is very elaborate and well done, and just like the shots carry on for so long that it isn't cutting at every chance it gets. It gives you some time
Exactly.
to appreciate all that combat.
this movie was I think this was the movie that invented gun fu.
Oh, and explain to me and our listeners what that is.
It's kind of just like this style of fighting in which guns are used in really interesting, kind of like you do like trick shots in basketball. It's sort of like,
Interesting comparison.
but it's like you try to see like what interesting ways you can use your gun, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I see the parallel between like I don't know, say like this is like Kill Bill but with guns, or like any other like samurai movie.
Yeah.
Or if it wasn't with guns, they'd just be like kicking and punching each other.
It's all pretty much close combat stuff going on, you know? And I think it really shows that this was made by two stunt performers and stunt coordinators.
Yeah, because that's where their priorities lay, and they have a lot of experience in that department.
And it's I think it's really awesome that this became a success, because if this hadn't become a success, I don't know what the state of action movies, like lower budgeted action movies, would be. Because this kind of raised the bar. It kind of said low budget
and blazed a trail.
Yeah, it's a trailblazer. And I think it's like you said, the fact that it was made for $20 million is really crazy to me because of just how well produced it is, you know.
And Willem Dafoe is in it.
Yeah. And it has these great, Ian McShane is in it, Willem Dafoe is in it, Keanu Reeves is in it.
Yeah, the bench of this movie is very deep.
Yeah, and it's a very...
Isn't Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters in it, rather briefly?
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. He's the guy from the hotel who...
No, that's just another black guy. You racist.
We're gonna have to cut this.
No, we can't cut this, Trent.
No, stop. I'm embarrassed.
But
he looks a lot like him.
Dude, he's bald. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, luckily I edit this, so we'll see about that. But I guess disregard that comment. I was gonna after we condemned racism not 5 minutes earlier.
Now we need to keep this in.
This was a slip up. I'm not perfect. Let it be known. Let the record reflect.
Oh, it's a guy named Lance Reddick, I think is his name. And he's on a show called The Wire on HBO.
Really making me look bad.
Yeah.
By knowing all about him.
But it has a really stacked cast, you know, and it kind of shows like $20 million isn't a hindrance. I mean, I'm sure they did go through a lot, and that isn't necessarily the most amount of money. But I mean, lots of action movies that are made for $100 million look a lot worse than this and have a lot worse action than this, you know?
Parth, you know a lot about this movie, and this was my first time. So I wrote some questions as I was going. And can I ask them to you, and maybe you can provide the answer?
Yes, please.
So when John Wick, the titular character, he gets the dog out of the cage, and he looks at its collar, and it's named Daisy. And he's like, oh, of course. Why? Why is that of course?
I don't know. His wife. I don't know.
Oh, well, okay. I was confused about that. Okay, second question.
Not that big of a deal.
All right, I guess it's just a throwaway.
I think it's maybe,
line.
of course, like, oh, he gave like the dog, or she gave the dog to him, and whatever.
Next question. What happens to the second car that John Wick has that Aurelio gives him? Because throughout this movie, people are just giving him cars left and right.
That's actually mildly, like a very mild plot point in the second movie.
What? That the second car is recovered?
Yeah.
Also, I'm surprised the first car, which is what like kind of set this into motion, isn't mentioned again.
Mm-hmm.
Is it ever recovered?
Well, again, that's in the second movie.
Oh, okay. But
very mildly. to be fair, but it is there.
But this movie doesn't set up a sequel or a threequel.
I think that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah, it just happened to be so successful that it could justify those.
And it has this really interesting underworld happening.
Yeah, it sets up an entire. It sets up a whole world of like everyday thugs that I didn't know existed, but basically it just like, is it just like the Russian mob, or is it supposed to be like more complex than that?
It's sort of like this. The way this works, so far as I understand it, is there is this group of hitmen, and you kind of learn more about it in the second and third movie. So I don't want to like,
because we'll get to those eventually.
But basically, for the purposes of this movie, there is a lot of hitmen and women that do their thing, and the Continental is this safe haven, hotel where when they're there,
the Flatiron Building, I think.
Yeah, it is the Daily Bugle in the Spider-Man films.
Yes.
But so that's like a safe haven for them, and they use gold coins as this sort of currency, kind of.
I was going to ask about that.
Don't think too much of the directors have spoken on it. It's not really so much like that there is a specific value amount attached to it, but more so, so you're in on this. Like, if you have to think about how much it costs, you probably shouldn't be having coins.
Yeah, I briefly thought about this, and I was like, John Wick, for his 2 nights at the Continental, handed him 2 coins. But then also, to get into like the dance party thing, he paid 1 coin. And also, I was just confused on the value of one individual coin.
For the guy to clean up his house.
Yeah. And also, are they like made of gold?
It's not really important. It's more so just meant to be like, oh, the secret society
has their own form of currency. I'm happy that the Russian mobsters actually speak in Russian, and then they just put subtitles, because I really don't like movies where it'll be like, it's German terrorists, but they're all fluent in English.
I guess we should then just get into story.
Let's just dive in.
But there's not much here, but what'd you think?
I just have a few more like perimeter comments that I'll make. I thought well, first of all, how did the thugs know where John Wick lived from the gas station?
Maybe they followed him. I don't know.
All right. Second thing, I thought that the story, you may disagree with this, had too many like temporary characters. And I'll name the example like Perkins, Winston, and Aurelio. I don't know if they're in the follow-up movies.
But Perkins dies. Perkins gets shot.
Yes, I know. But they're just like in it to serve, like, and the guy who I thought was Ernie Hudson, him too. It's just like they're in like one scene, they have like one conversation, they provide a key piece of information or not, and then they either die or they're forgotten.
I kind of disagree. I mean, I don't know that it's a disagreement. I guess it's just a thing of taste, but for me, it's like I kind of like that there are these sort of periphery characters, and it's like it kind of helps seal the deal that this is a fully formed world that he's re-entering, and there would be all of these side characters. You know what I mean? So I kind of like the fact that there's these established relationships that we kind of don't like know, like kind of a weird example to be making, but it kind of reminds me of Star Wars, where you don't need the explanation for all of the things. It's just sort of this world exists and it's lived in and it has its rules and we're just in it. Yeah, and I kind of like all of these side characters because it's like, well, they mean something to John Wick. We don't necessarily need to know what they mean, but they're there.
What do you think of the script broadly, or the screenplay, if we're being technical?
I think it's efficient. I think it's exactly what it needs to be. Only problem, there's not really that much to talk about with story. I think the only thing is the dog dying and the ending.
I think the dialogue is like a step above most action movies of this class. Like,
I think it's more fun. It has this sort of fun, like pulpy comic booky like thing going
yeah,
on.
there are a few times I thought it was really witty, and then a few other times, or I guess the rest of the time, it was kind of just on cruise control, and I thought it did what it had to, but it wasn't wowing me. But when you sign up for a 90-minute action movie, am I asking for Aaron Sorkin dialogue? No, that'd be an unfair expectation.
Yeah, I think it's I guess sort of going back to the aesthetic of the movie, it's really like a graphic novel, which is something they have like the directors have outwardly stated that that's something that they wanted to do.
Yeah,
And it's
you can feel that influence.
you can see it in the framing, you can see it in the editing kind of, and then the shot choices. And I think it's a really cool thing that for the first half hour there is no action.
Hmm.
It is all character building, which is
Not the
something
first half hour. He gets beaten up and like the well,
that's not really an action sequence though.
yeah, true. It's pretty one sided.
It's all like his wife is dead. He's mourning his wife. He gets this dog, and there's this little fun like, oh, he likes the dog. The dog is cute and whatever. And then the dog dies, and then it's like he goes and asks who the person was that killed him, that killed the dog, and it's this fun. Well, not fun, but it's this half hour pretty much of no action happening, which makes it all the more
When they
satisfying.
kick it into high gear.
I think that first action sequence is still one of my favorite action sequences in the franchise. And this franchise gets crazy.
Is that when like the 12
House
guys?
invasion.
Yeah, that's what I thought. A character dynamic that I thought was really interesting was between like Vigo and his son, and how Vigo kind of he like expected his son to die. Well, he sided with John, saying that like you shouldn't have done this, and being like this is gonna get you killed. When in most movies, like the father would just be like, "Hey, we're gonna get him. You hurt my son," and then also how he tries to like settle it diplomatically because he knows that he's in the wrong, and now in the end, he gives up his son so he'll be so he can survive just to like cross him again. So and then he ends up being killed, even though he must have known that this was going to happen because he told his son that he can basically like he was guaranteed death.
I think it's more so that at that point, John had sort of destroyed all of that stuff at the church.
Yeah, so he was worth much less.
He kills his son. He kills he ruins all of his political whatever leverage and blah 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 and money.
Also, this guy has like I don't know, like 70 hitmen and or 70 goons, and they're all dead now. So he would have to do a lot of recruiting to get back on his feet.
I think the head count for this movie is 88 people.
Jeez. I don't think it was like gratuitous though. Like
no, neither.
I was like on board for all this violence.
It's other than like the language, like there's a few F-bombs thrown in there, but other than the language and the digital blood.
I was just gonna say I don't adore the CGI blood.
It's a problem. And it doesn't necessarily get better.
Also, people like don't really bleed. Like
what do you mean?
Oh, okay. Do you know when they're in like the bathhouse?
Mm-hmm.
John Wick shoots a bunch of people and they're like in pools, and usually you fall into the pool and then you start leaking blood because that tends to happen
there.
Okay.
I might have to rewatch it, but I'm pretty sure there's blood in there. But I mean, sort of speaking on
I'm willing to forgive.
Speaking on the clubhouse, I mean, I think that the home invasion, the clubhouse are some of the best action sequences ever. I think they're awesome. They're really well choreographed. You can see exactly what's happening. There's lots of fun things that he does with his gun, and
yes,
I think the clubhouse specifically, there's a lot of variety in like what he does. It doesn't fall into the trap of keeping John Wick having him do the same thing over and over again that I think other less accomplished directors would
He keeps it fresh. He keeps
Yeah.
finding new and unique ways to kill his enemies.
Yeah.
Which,
and
as a viewer, I appreciate.
exactly. I think for the story, my one issue is ends too quickly, and it's not got the best like show off at the end.
How do you feel about the beginning, like being the end? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with it. It's kind of just like an editing technique to be like, "Ooh, what happened here?" And I think it
How
was
did
done.
we get to this point?
I think that wasn't a thing in the script. I think that was a thing where when they edited the movie, they were like, "This opens on John doing nothing."
Yeah, I just think they were like, people are going to get bored in the first 10 minutes and they're going to leave the theater because they're going to be like, we signed up for an action movie and nothing's happening.
Yeah. I really don't have an issue with it. It's an editing conceit, whatever.
You want to know one thing I think is a little cheesy?
Hear it.
Him watching the video of him and his wife.
Oh.
Also, just like the exchange there is really stiff. It's just like, hey, John, what are you doing? And he's like, looking at you. And then she's like, come here. And then he records them kissing. And then he like watches that a lot. And it's like, I don't know. If my wife died, I might just like think about her, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a storytelling device. It's telling the audience that they were in love and that her death was tragic.
I can forgive it because the point of the movie isn't the drama of,
yes,
you know, it does what it needs to do, kind of clunkily, but
I thought by contrast, within the first 5 minutes, you totally understand. Like the wife died, and he's sad about it, and he's alone now. And I thought that doing the recording thing was overkill.
That's fair. That's fair.
Another, I don't know, technicality, I guess.
Go ahead.
Why does Willem Dafoe, what's his name, Marcus, he accepts the contract to kill John Wick when he has no intention to? Is that correct?
Yeah. I think it's just so because he knows that other people are going to be doing the hit on him. So,
but he put himself in a position to have Vigo murder him. Because when Vigo came and offered him the job, he should be like, hey, and Vigo knew that they were friends. He should be like, no, I am not interested in that. And then he could have protected him with no strings attached. And now he knows that people are going to be after John. But that's what ends up getting him killed.
That's a fair criticism. Again, doesn't really matter.
No, Parth, I'm not too worried about it. I just have very few negative things to say, so I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know that there's that much more to really talk about with story. It's a very simple movie. I think there's more to talk about with the second and third movie.
I think I was content with the ending, being that he
has a new dog.
He gets a new dog, and it's he settled his beef, and now he's back where he started, but he should have closure, I guess. He's currently carless, but I'm sure that won't last for long. Just a fun fact before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
Over the 3 movies, John Wick has killed 306 people, which exceeds Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers combined, which I thought
isn't that crazy?
You people at home should be aware of that. He's a dangerous guy. To keep your distance, or he'll kill you.
Baba Yaga.
Yep, the boogeyman.
Well, he's actually the guy you sent to kill
the boogeyman. Yeah, no, I watched.
That's always the weird thing. They always call him Baba Yaga, and they're like, "Well, he's not really that." Anyways,
it'd be like if I called you like the tiger, and they're like, "Oh, you call Parth the tiger?" I'd be like, "No, but if there was a tiger, I would call Parth in order to execute that tiger." And they'd be like, "Well, that's a complicated nickname. You should just call him the Tiger Killer."
Tiger King.
Well put. Topical. All right. What next?
I guess we should just
give it a rating.
Do you have anything more to say, or can we just get into ratings?
Let's get into ratings.
Go first.
I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Mhm.
I liked it. For an action movie, I thought it was great. But action movies aren't necessarily my cup of tea in the first place, so it was a little bit out of my comfort zone. But overall, I mean, what's not to like? But just there was something missing that that maybe they'll find in the next 2 installments.
Well, our next installment is John Wick Chapter 2.
How sequential of us.
Mhm.
And you?
Again, I love this movie.
So prepare for some bias.
I also am a very big fan of action movies. I'm gonna give this an 8.
That was conservative of you.
A few years ago, I might have given this a 9, but
that's the past part.
But now because of the sequels, which we can get into later.
Do the sequels make this one better for you?
Yeah. I mean,
or does each one up the ante?
Yes, they both. So John Wick 2 and 3 are more connected to each other than 2 is to 1.
Maybe
1 is the most standalone movie.
Is it in the way that Back to the Future 2 and 3 are connected? Because you make the first one and you're like, well, who knows if this is going to succeed and require a second one. But then when you're making the second one, you're like, well, obviously this is going to do well, so we're going to interconnect it with the third one.
This wasn't 2 and 3 weren't shot back to back.
Well, I know that's specific to Back to the Future.
That wasn't the plan with it, but they're more connected, and the sequels kind of go deeper. I think the sequels become way more ambitious, and that's why I think I'd give this an 8.5. It does what it needs to do really well. It sets up this really cool world. It has some fun characters, really, really good action, and kind of changed, in my eyes, a lot of indie action movies. Not an easy feat.
Well, I say we did John Wick.
We did.
So what's our next episode, and who are we interviewing?
Our next episode is, surprise, surprise, John Wick 2.
The logical following of John Wick 1.
It's going to be John Wick Chapter 2, and we have an interesting guest for you next week. It's Richie Cohan, and he is the trailer music composer.
There you go.
Which is, interesting facet that we haven't explored yet.
So we'd like to thank Luca Mosca, the costume designer who graciously talked to our lowly selves. Very insightful information. We appreciate your time. And I think that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in to this week's installment of Craft Services, the podcast.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.